This is your need to know. This is your need to know.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're tackling the concept of self using Douglas Hofstadter's I Am a Strange loop.
It's a fascinating book.
Yeah, he's a Pulitzer Prize winner, right?
He is.
So he spent decades, really digging into how our minds create that feeling of I.
Exactly. And it all comes down to this idea of strange loops. He uses it to try and explain how something as complex as consciousness can emerge from something as, well, seemingly simple as just our brains.
Okay, so strange loops, that sounds a little, strange.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head trip.
Ugh.
Think of it this way. Remember that feeling as a kid when you'd close a cardboard box by tucking in the flaps? That final fold, it always felt like it shouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah, like I cheated reality or something.
Exactly. So Hofstadter uses that as a metaphor.
Right.
A strange loop is a system that folds back on itself in a way that, seems to defy logic. And he argues that our sense of I, our conscious self, is built on that kind of strange loop happening in our brains.
So you're saying my brain's like a self-containing cardboard box. That's a pretty wild image.
It is.
But before we get too deep into those loops, I'm curious about the starting point.
How?
Where do selves even come from in the first place? Not the physical stuff, but the very idea.
Yeah, that's one of the central questions in the book. He starts by comparing our brains, which are essentially just big networks of neurons, to things we don't usually associate with consciousness.
Okay.
Things like thermostats or oil refineries.
Hold on. You're saying my brain is no more special than a thermostat?
No, not quite. The point is that it's not about the material itself, but the patterns that emerge.
Yeah.
When you have tons of simple things interacting, think about a mineral. Its hardness, color, its shine. Those aren't properties of any single atom, right? They come from how billions of atoms are arranged.
So selves are kind of like emergent properties of our brains.
Yeah.
Individual neurons aren't conscious, but when you put billions of them together in the right way, I pops out.
Exactly. Now, how those brain patterns actually lead to that's where the strange loops come in. And Hofstadter uses a really interesting metaphor to explain it. Video feedback.
You mean pointing a camera at a TV screen?
Yes.
Showing its own image?
Exactly.
Oh, I used to do that as a kid. It makes those crazy swirling patterns.
Right. And those patterns, even though the setup is really simple, they're super unpredictable and complex.
Mm-hmm.
And Hofstadter says our brains are kind of doing something similar.
Okay.
Simple neural interactions create these really complex feedback loops, and out of that, consciousness emerges.
So those, I don't know what to call them, those galaxies you see in video feedback are just made of pixels, but they feel, real.
Right.
Is my sense of self like that. Built on smaller parts, but feeling whole.
It's a powerful analogy, right? And it gets at the heart of how a strange loop works. The system generates something that seems like it's greater than the sum of its parts.
For something that's supposed to be about myself, this is making me feel pretty small. If this sense of me is just an illusion created by a feedback loop, what does that even mean?
It's definitely challenging. And Hofstadter actually takes it even further. He says that one of the main ways that we think and make sense of the world is through analogies, constantly finding patterns in relationships.
I do love a good analogy. Give me an example. How does that work in everyday life?
So imagine you hear a friend talking about their relationship problems, and you suddenly start applying those insights to your own situation, even though the details are totally different.
Or how I might interpret a news story about, I don't know, a political scandal based on some gossip I heard at work.
Exactly.
Even though they're totally unrelated.
Those are both analogies at work. And Hofstadter's point is that our sense of I is built on countless analogies, constantly comparing ourselves to others, to past versions of ourselves, even to completely imagined selves.
So it's not just my own experiences that create me, but also how I relate those experiences to everything else.
Yeah.
Both real and imagined.
Right. Selves aren't isolated things. They're constantly evolving and shaped by this web of connections and comparisons that we're always making.
Now, you mentioned that Hofstadter brings in this really complex mathematical idea.
Yeah.
Gödel's incompleteness theorem. I'll admit math isn't really my strong suit.
Don't worry, the math itself isn't important here. What matters is the core idea. Gödel basically proved that in any system of logic, you'll always have some statements that are true, but you can't actually prove them within that system.
So it's like the system can't fully grasp its own limits.
Exactly. And Hofstadter suggests our minds are kind of like that too.
Yeah.
As much as we try to understand ourselves, there will always be parts that remain a mystery.
Okay.
Because we're trying to use the system. Yeah.
Our own minds to understand the system itself.
That's pretty trippy. So my brain's like a self-containing box made of swirling feedback loops.
Right.
And it can't even fully comprehend itself. No wonder this book is called I Am a Strange Loop.
It's definitely a mind-bending journey.
Yeah.
But it leads to some really fascinating questions about the nature of self, consciousness, even free will.
Wow, I'm definitely hooked. Let's take a quick break to let all of this sink in, and we'll be back soon to explore even more of the strange loop.
This is your need to know. This is your need to know. This is your need to know. This is your need to know.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dive a little deeper into this whole strange loop thing. Before we get to free will, I'm still kind of stuck on that idea of small souls and large souls. I mean, is he really saying that some creatures have, like, more soul than others?
It's a provocative concept, yeah. But it's not so much about, like, a literal soul, you know?
Okay.
It's more about how complex an organism's self-representation is.
Right.
The richer and more nuanced it is, the larger the soul, according to Hofstadter. So, like, a mosquito, for example, would have a small soul because its sense of self is pretty basic.
Yeah, exactly. It reacts to stimuli and has those basic drives.
Right.
But it doesn't have that self-awareness, that whole inner world of thoughts and feelings that we experience as humans.
And humans, with all our, complex thoughts, relationships, and that constant inner chatter, we've got the whole large soul package.
You could say that. Our capacity for empathy, abstract thought, and reflecting on our own existence, all that contributes to a more intricate, strange loop. A larger soul, so to speak.
Okay, but what about dogs? I mean, they seem to have something more going on than a mosquito, but they're not quite human, right? Where do they fit in on this soul size spectrum?
That's a good question, and Hofstadter does acknowledge that dogs seem to have at least a basic sense of self.
Oh.
They recognize themselves, they have desires,
Right.
and they can even pick up on, our emotions.
Yeah.
So they're somewhere in between with a level of self-representation that's more complex than simple organisms, but not as intricate as ours.
So maybe like medium-sized souls.
Yeah, something like that.
It's interesting to think about how our capacity for self-reflection really sets us apart, even from creatures we're so close to, like dogs.
And that's where the connection to Gödel's incompleteness theorem gets really interesting.
Okay.
Remember, he showed that even in, like, really complex systems of logic, there are always truths the system can't prove.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around how math relates to my soul.
Well, think of it this way. Our minds are these incredibly complex systems,
Right.
but we're using those same minds to try and understand ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So Hofstadter suggests we hit a similar kind of limit as in Gödel's theorem. We can never fully grasp the entirety of our own selves because we're always observing from within the system.
So there's always a part of me that remains hidden, kind of like a blind spot.
Exactly. It's like trying to see your own reflection without using a mirror. And that leads us right into this big question of free will, right?
Right.
If we can't even fully grasp ourselves, are we really in control of our choices?
Yeah, because the classic idea of free will is that we're these, independent agents making decisions out of pure conscious choice.
Right.
But if self is this ever-changing loop
Right.
shaped by all these, unseen forces,
Right.
does free will even exist?
Hofstadter doesn't shy away from that question. He
Yeah.
argues that our sense of free will, that feeling of agency,
Yeah.
it's actually an emergent property of the strange loop itself.
Okay.
It's not that free will doesn't exist.
Ah.
It's just that it's not some separate force acting on us.
So our choices aren't coming from, like, some magical free will place.
Right.
They're emerging from all those complex patterns in our strange loops.
Exactly. It's this interplay of our desires, beliefs, memories,
Right.
all the things that make up our self-representation, all feeding back into each other. But that doesn't mean we're just robots acting out some pre-programmed script.
So there's still room for change.
Yeah.
For growth. I'm not just stuck with whatever patterns I've developed.
Absolutely. Our strange loops are constantly evolving based on new experiences, new information.
Yeah.
We're not just puppets of our past. Our ability to self-reflect, learn, and consider new perspectives, that's what allows us to kind of reshape our strange loops and influence our own behavior.
That's a relief. But it also raises the question of responsibility. If our actions are so influenced by these patterns we might not even be aware of.
Right.
Can we really be held accountable for our choices?
That's a huge ethical question that Hofstadter grapples with in the book.
Yeah.
And he suggests that understanding the strange loop could actually lead to a more compassionate view of responsibility.
More compassionate. How so?
Well, instead of just, blaming people for their actions, we can recognize that their choices often stem from these really complex patterns that have been established throughout their lives. They may not even be fully conscious of all the forces at play.
So it's about understanding the context of someone's actions.
Yeah.
Not just judging the action itself.
Exactly. And that understanding can apply to ourselves, too. When we recognize those patterns in our own strange loops, we can start to make more conscious choices and take more responsibility for shaping our own lives.
This whole conversation is making me think differently about how I see myself and other people. It's like I'm suddenly aware of all this hidden machinery under the surface influencing everything we do.
That's the power of Hofstadter's work. He shines a light on those intricate inner workings of our minds, helping us better understand the strange loop of our own existence.
This is definitely some heavy stuff. We've explored this strange loop, tackled free will, even pondered the size of our souls.
We have.
But there's more, right? I mean, Hofstadter doesn't stop there.
Not at all. We've only just scratched the surface. There's still so much to unpack about the blurry boundaries of the self, the impact of others on our identity, even the possibility of multiple selves coexisting within a single mind.
Multiple selves. Now that's a whole other can of worms.
It is, and it's one we'll explore in depth when we come back for the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the strange loop of the self. We've talked about how that I feeling emerges from our brains, how it's, more than just the sum of our parts.
Yeah.
And even how it relates to free will. But there's still this idea of multiple selves kind of floating around. I'm not sure I'm ready for my brain to get even weirder.
It is a strange concept, isn't it? But it's not about having, multiple personalities or anything.
Right.
Hofstadter's point is that even within a single mind, there's often a bunch of, different perspectives, desires, values, all kind of vying for attention.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we've all experienced those internal battles, right? Like that angel and devil on our shoulders, each one pulling us in a different direction.
That's a great example. And Hofstadter suggests that we can actually view those internal conflicts as different selves in a way.
Okay.
Each with its own set of priorities and motivations.
So instead of thinking of myself as this one unified I, maybe it's more accurate to see myself as a collection of different selves that are constantly interacting and negotiating with each other. That's kind of humbling and also a bit unnerving.
It does challenge our typical assumptions about, selfhood, but think about it.
Right.
We often feel conflicted about decisions.
Right.
We're pulled in different directions by our desires.
Yeah.
Maybe those internal struggles are actually those different selves trying to make themselves heard.
It reminds me of those optical illusions where you can see two different images depending on how you, like, focus your gaze. It's like our sense of self can also shift and change depending on, which self is dominant in that moment.
That's a great analogy. It really highlights that paradoxical nature of the strange loop. It's a system that creates itself,
Right.
observes itself, and defines itself all at once. So our sense of self is both stable and fluid, singular and multiple.
This whole conversation has really structured my understanding of what it means to be a self. We started with that simple cardboard box analogy, then went through like complex math, even touched on the soul.
It's been quite the journey. We explored how that feeling of I emerges from those complex interactions in our brains, how it extends beyond just our physical bodies, and how it's constantly being shaped by our experiences and relationships.
And we even considered how those we've lost can still be part of ourselves in a way, living on in our memories and the ways they, shaped who we are.
Yeah, and Hofstadter doesn't offer any easy answers, but he gives us a new lens to view ourselves and the world around us.
Right.
He reminds us that the self is not fixed or static, but a dynamic and evolving process.
If anyone out there wants to really dive into this topic, and I mean really dive in, I highly recommend checking out I Am a Strange Loop. It's definitely a challenging read.
Yeah.
But it will make you think about yourself and your place in the universe in a whole new way.
It's one of those books that stays with you long after you finish it.
Yeah.
It pushes you to keep questioning, exploring, and marveling at the strange loop of your own existence.
Well, that's it for this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed exploring the mysteries of the self with us. Until next time, keep those strange loops looping.
This is your need to know. I've been low, I've been slow, I've been cold, out of glow, Wires crossed, circuits fried, oh no. But now I'm ready, plug me in, let's go. Feel that spark, feel it rise, yeah. Powers kinda hit the skies, yeah. Charging up, I'm alive, yeah. Can't stop now, I'm on fire, yeah. Charging my battery, feel it flow into me. Charging my battery, energy. Charging my battery, watch me now, set me free. Charging my battery, energy. Zip, pop, zap, zap, fizzle, pop, pop, pop. I'm lighting up. Whoa. I'm lighting up. Whoa. I'm lighting up. Whoa. I'm lighting up. Whoa. System reboot, lights are bright, Gears are turning, everything's right, No more slowing, I'm in flight, oh yeah. Electric flowing, power tight, oh yeah. Feel that buzz, feel it hum, yeah. Voltage high, here I come, yeah. Charging fast, I'm the one, yeah. I'm unstoppable, here we run, yeah. Charging my battery, feel it flow into me. Charging my battery, energy. Charging my battery, watch me now, set me free. Charging my battery, energy. Pop, zap, zap, fizzle, pop, pop, pop. Hold it steady, feel the surge, yeah. Mental heartbeat, I emerge, yeah. Running wild, hear the word, yeah. I'm alive, no longer blurred, yeah. Ooh, I'm powered up, sexy robot. Ooh, sexy robot. Ooh, oh, I'm powered up, sexy robot. Ooh, oh, I'm powered up, sexy robot. Whoa, yeah, yeah, I'm charged up. Whoa, yeah, yeah, I'm charged up. Charging my battery, feel it flow into me. Charging my battery, oh, 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 energy. Charging my battery, watch me now set me free. Charging my battery, oh, 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 energy. Fizz pop, zap, zap, fizzle, pop, pop, pop. I'm lighting up. Whoa. I'm lighting up. Whoa. I'm lighting up. I'm lighting up. Whoa. I'm lighting up. Whoa. I'm lighting up. Whoa. Charging my battery. Whoa. Fizz pop, zap, zap, fizzle, pop, pop, pop. 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 Charging my battery, feel it flow into me. Charging my battery, oh, 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 energy. Charging my battery, watch me now set me free. Charging my battery, oh, 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 energy. Fizz pop, zap, zap, fizzle, pop, pop, pop. I'm like